Hi, this is JM Ryerson, author of Let's Go Win, Keys to Living Your Best Life, and also the podcast host of Let's Go Win. In my episode for the Business Growth Architect Show, I will share and discuss with you how to stop reliving the loop of what is miserable. I want you to have effective change. I want you to be happy. I want you to be healthy. I want you to be wealthy. And I look forward to seeing you on the show.
Hello, fabulous person. Beate Gillette here, the Growth Architect. Welcome back to the Business Growth Architect Show, where we bring you cutting-edge business strategies from some of the world's most successful entrepreneurs, business transformation experts, and visionaries who want to help you to scale your impact. Look for one tangible strategy that you can take back and implement right away. And now back to our guest. Welcome back. This is your host, Beate Gillette. And today I have a treat. And it is JM Ryerson, who will help us on how to let go and win a little bit. So I welcome you to the show. It's so great to see you, JM.
So good to be here. I appreciate you. And you were so awesome on my show. I'm fired up to be on yours.
Excellent. So for somebody who has never heard about you or doesn't know what you do, will you tell us what is it that you do?
So I'm a performance mindset and leadership coach is, I guess, what I do on a daily basis. But my company, Let's Go Win, exists to inspire people to live their best lives. And so on a daily basis, my favorite thing that I do is podcasts. I love it. There will be a day where all I do is podcast, and that'll be awesome. In the meantime, I do a lot of coaching with people. I get the opportunity to wake up every day and work with people on achieving their dreams. And I can't think of a better way to go about life. So I love coaching. I love sports, hence the name Let's Go Win. And the whole idea is if I'm winning, you're winning. If you're winning, I'm winning, because I believe in an abundance mindset. I think there's so much for us to be feeding off of each other momentum. So that's what I do. And it's awesome.
Yes, thank you for that. And yes, I did have a phenomenal time on your show. I think we could have talked for like 15 hours about all kinds of things. So one of the things that really struck me about you, you are very big on values and things that are around what make people tick. And I think there's a difference between sort of the regular core values, mission and vision, and the way you look at values. So I want to just open with that before we even talk about strategy, because I happen to know that you're very passionate about this. So fire away.
So I learned the hard way, as a lot of us do, that you get in this room and you start putting all these culture values, and this is who we are, and this is what we represent. And then we come up with some really cool looking mission statement. And then you ask somebody on your team, hey, what is our mission statement? What do we stand for? And you get 1,000 different answers from 1,000 different people. And it's like, wait a minute, we didn't really accomplish what we set out to do, which is to really say, this is who we are, this is how we show up, and this is what we represent. And so for me, cultural values is exactly who you are. And the better you define that, the more success you have in growing your business, in recruiting, in sales, in clients. Because when people know exactly what you stand for, they're like, oh, I'm like that too. This is what I'm attracted to. Or this is not for me. I don't want anything to do with you. And so I am passionate about it because I've done it wrong. And it was really the hard way to go about it. And then the moment I figured out, you know what, let's limit it. Then everyone can start to remember it. And now you can tell that story so much easier than if it's this long paragraph of stuff. Now, let's just say who we are. And then people will be like, oh, I can get behind that.
No question for you on that, because, ever since I've talked to you for the first time and heard about this, I think there's so many different elements that go into this. I think sometimes the executive leadership team, and no matter how big it is, it might be you as a single CEO, you're trying to be too smart. And you come up with this super complicated thing, and we delivering world-class, global, international, outstanding, right? And becomes this complete vomit of just stuff that sounds really good. But then when you drill it down and somebody has to understand it in layman terms, there is a discrepancy. Why do you think people do that?
I think it's hardwired and conditioned because forever we were taught to wordsmith things. And it starts back when we started in school. Do a 1,000-page essay. By the way, if you wrote a really good essay at 400 words and you were done, you get a C, probably a D, maybe even an F, because you only did 400 words versus, oh, you did 1,000 words. It's really mediocre, but we're going to go ahead and give you an A because you fulfilled the assignment. When the truth is, concise communication, if you look back in time at some of the most powerful speeches, Winston Churchill was one of the greatest. Martin Luther King Jr., great at it. Abraham Lincoln, one of the shortest speeches, the Gettysburg Address. It's famous still today, and it's really short and concise. Why? Because we can remember it. And so it's interesting how the really amazing orators have learned that concise communication, but that's not what we teach in school. We teach, hey, make it sound really good and keep filler words in there, and it keeps growing and growing and growing. And now we're going to reward you with great job. Well, unfortunately, we have now an 8-second attention span. So that really long paragraph that you just told me, I blanked out like 3 or 4 times, and I didn't hear what the whole purpose of what your company is. So we just lose it in that speak. And it all started with how we were taught to write and really speak.
Yeah. I mean, when you told me this idea about reduction in values, I thought about a client that I'm working with. And he is in the medical aesthetics. So, it's all about injections and Botox and Juvederm. And he's like one of the top people, certainly one of the top people here in Los Angeles. And we picked one core value. Beautiful. That's it. And we did this specifically with the purpose that we wanted it to be so easy to say to the employees, is what you're doing beautiful? Are your actions beautiful? Are you keeping the office beautiful? How do you yourself behave? How do you behave toward others? Is this beautiful, right? Everything has to have just one check against everything. And then when you told me that, you believe in the no more than, I think, 3, you said, no more than 3 values, right? I think that there is something to be said about forcing people to take it down to the essence. So let's say, because, we always talk about strategy on this podcast. So if somebody comes and says, well, but my 20 years of experience and my big vision of where I want to go and my global expansion project and my future exit plan, there's no way I can put all of this in a short format. Do you have any advice for us? How can we cut the fat?
So it's beautiful, by the way, that you came up with that with that doctor. I think it's incredible because it's so multiverse. You can use it so many different ways and you can check in on people's behavior. So great job as the amazing consultant and who you are. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So I think of these companies that Nike. When you think of Nike, I think of Just Do It. When you think of Apple, think differently. These are major brands that have figured out, yeah, we have all these things going on. But when you say Nike, you think Just Do It, just like that. And every big brand has figured out that we have to simplify in order to really amplify who we are. So you're right. I do talk about 3 cultural values because I was that fool standing on a stage in front of about 1,500 people talking about, rallying them up about our 6 core values. And I got to 4 values down and I went blank. Now, mind you, I'm the guy in the room coming up with these core values with my executive team, and I can't remember. And I was so smart that day. Let me tell you, I added a 7th core value. It's insane. And when I got off stage, I decided to do a quick informal poll. And I went around to everybody and said, hey, what are our core values again? And out of the 1,500 people, I probably polled 100 people. The only person that could say it was the other gentleman that was in the room with me coming up with these core values. And I stopped and I said, this is insanity. Mm-hmm. We have all these values, but no one remembers. So what's the point? We went back to the drawing board and cut it down to 3. And for that company, they were simple: fun, love, drive. Those were our core values. Did the same speech the next year. I remembered all 3 core values. So that was positive. And then I did the same informal poll. And now 90% of the people knew because we repeated it every single meeting. Fun, love, drive, fun, love, drive. And people finally were like, oh, this is what that company stands for. When I'm walking down the road, If they're fun, they're considered to be on our team. If they're a wet blanket, yeah, it's probably not a good fit. And so it's just amazing how, when we simplified it, how much more people bought into the culture and said, I can get behind this. I understand it.
I'm having such a good time with this because I think we all are so guilty of just trying to be smart thing and then just getting in our own way. So taking it back to sort of the winning strategies, right? So in your work, what role does strategy play? Is winning the strategy? Is the teamwork the strategy? How do you look at the components of strategy as you use them in your coaching?
Yeah, it's such a really, really good question because not enough people talk about strategy. And if you were to ask me to simplify the strategy, it's don't quit, right? Like that's the number one strategy of my program. So for instance, my second book, it's literally built for 90 days. And what I tell people is if you pick up the book and simply follow this simple formula, you will hit whatever goal you set 90 days from now. And so the strategy is quite literally simplifying everything so that we can have repeatable habits. We can create a routine that is something I want to do, I'm going to do. Because if it's too convoluted, look, this world is complex enough. I don't have any more bandwidth for an extra 10 steps. By the way, I can't remember 10 anyway. So what I do, and the real strategy is, look, we're going to work on some basic core habits. And the first thing I start with is how we wake up in the morning. And I know it sounds so cliche and people are probably rolling their eyes, but it's just true. Do you take care of yourself with your mind, your body, and your soul? If you do nothing else from this podcast, just taking care of your mind, body, and soul before you do anything else, before you take care of your children or your home or your business, you will be that much more successful because you're reinvesting into the most important person, which is yourself. If you can reinvest into yourself, now you get to show up as your best version of you, as an employee, as a spouse, as a employer, whatever hat you're wearing. But if you don't, there's a real shelf life, and that burnout factor is going to hit you before you know it. So that's really the strategy that we use. And it's just simplifying things so we can have repeatable steps every day.
Yeah, I think that is, being a strategist myself, probably one of the things people often misunderstand is that they think that strategies have to be really super complicated. And to your point, I work a lot with high-performing entrepreneurs, which I'm sure you do too. And it goes like this. I want to wake up at 5 o'clock. Then I want to give myself a full hour. Then I want to work out. Then I want to go to the office. Then I want to do this. Then I want to do this. And when you look at the schedule, then you say, did you realize that your day has 24 hours, right? So if it also includes the 8 hours or 7 hours of sleep or whatever it is that you need, you're not going to get to that because you are now chasing a high performance dream. So that's kind of my next question to you. And this is a personal question that I have. Do you believe that people take productivity with themselves too seriously? Because, I think there's almost like a trend for people to wanting to be overproductive, where every minute of every day has to be planned out, maximized, optimized, the right food, the right thing, the right this, the supplements, the mindset, the practices. What do you think about this?
Yeah, so we are human beings. We are not human doings. We are not human doers. We are literally human beings. And I say that, and I know you laugh because it is kind of funny, but
it is hilarious when I think about it. It's like, I have like 10 people in my head that I see already doing this. It's like, it must be done to perfection.
And it's really insane if you think about it, because you're not allowing any grace. You're actually not having a lot of joy, but you're just, I'm going to do it. I'm going to task. Well, guess what? Long term, that doesn't work. And by the way, even when you do all these tasks, you're not really filling your bucket. So what's the point of it all? Because here's what I figured out. Going back for a second to core values. I used to have one of my core values, and I'm actually wearing the bracelet because I remind myself what they are. Courage, fun, transcend. Well, the problem with transcend is no one understands what the damn word means. I have my own thought, right? And I was like, JM, you're complicating it. You know what I figured out with all my clients? They want to be happy. They want to be healthy. and they want to be wealthy. And I'm not necessarily speaking in monetary terms. I'm talking wealth in relationships. I'm talking wealth in health. And it's actually really simple. But all these tasks that we're doing is to accomplish being happy, being healthy, and being wealthy. Well, if this task doesn't accomplish doing those things, maybe you should stop or simplify it. So, for instance, I was a college athlete. I would work out 2 to 4 hours a day. I don't have that time. Does that mean I shouldn't work out anymore? No, I should. It just means I modify. I change. I get my body, and my new goal is just to sweat every single day. Is that as awesome a workout as it used to be? Maybe not. But guess what? I'm still being active, and I'm happy and able to do all these things that I want to do because I've modified it. So just because it doesn't look the same as it did a year ago, 10 years ago, that's okay. So give yourself that grace to really just be a human being and enjoy the ride.
I love that. And let's talk a little bit more about how to modify and simplify right after this message. Thank you so much for listening to the show. This is Beate, the growth architect. I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you so much for your time. Have you ever wondered why your business is not growing as quickly as you would like it to be? Well, you may have a business growth blocker. And if you'd like to find out what that business growth blocker is, go and take our brand new quiz at growthblockerquiz.com. And in only a few minutes, you're not just going to find out what that blocker is, but also what to do about it. Again, go to growthblockerquiz.com. And now back to the show. JM, you were just talking about how to modify and simplify. And I think, I don't want to say it because it always sounds so trite, but the older I get, the more I really recognize is that the simplification is a great strategy for us in life. And you said that the expectations you had on yourself as a former athlete that was exercising 2 to 4 hours a day, now that expectation has been modified and simplified to now get down to a realistic or a much more pleasurable or enjoyable moment. What would you tell people that are continuously chasing their version of when they were, 28 or 35 or whatever that high performance age is, and they're now in this perpetual state of dissatisfaction because they can't run this fast, they can't do as much, they need more sleep, they are exhausted, but they keep chasing that? What do we tell them?
Yeah, I'd ask why. Why do you want to be the same as you were at 21, 25? Well, it's because I was at my peak athletic condition. Okay, cool. Why is that important? Well, I was playing a high sport. Well, are you still doing that today? Well, no, but I want to be, I want to be what? I want to be healthy. Oh, cool. So your goals have shifted. You're no longer a competitive athlete. And even if you are, now you have kids and a home and you have so much more than you had at 21 or 25. It's just allowing yourself a little grace to say, look, I'm not saying don't be a high performer. Do it. However, let's understand why we're doing it. At that age that we were doing these things, there was a why. I wanted to impress girls with my shirt off. Fantastic. Do you still need to do that? Okay, yes, no, whatever the answer is. And so when you get that question of why am I doing it, then it gets some real clarity around, I was doing it because my ego says I looked that way back then, and now I want to look that way at 50. Well, guess what? The body has shifted a little bit. Maybe you just want to be healthy. For instance, here's a good one for me. I used to power lift and I was really into heavy weights. And that was important to me at the time because at that age, I thought lifting heavy weights was really cool and fun because I could do it. You know what I want to do now at 44? I want to be limber. I want to just really be flexible and active and be out with my kids. So my goals have shifted, and I just need to give myself the grace and understanding that my goals are different. Therefore, my workouts are different. Therefore, whatever is modified to fit my current lifestyle and really what I want.
Yes, I think there's a lot to be said about that. It is this perpetual dissatisfaction chasing an unachievable dream that is really a moment in time. I see this a lot with entrepreneurs, especially on the high performance route, is that the expectation that they need to perform and continue to perform at that level their entire lives and the toll that it takes on them physically, emotionally, in their relationships is just absolutely crazy. So, what's a strategy that you help people with that come to you in this state of saying, I got to get to be happier, healthier. I want to have a little bit more fun. I still want to be successful. I want to create wealth. What do we tell them? It's like so much.
Yeah, it is. It is so much. And so I talk about the core three. You'll notice three shows up a lot in my world because it's just that's how our brains are wired to remember. And so let's say, all right, what are you really unhappy with currently today? And they say, and I say, okay, cool. What would make your world a better place if I did X? Okay, cool. And then we figure out that's one of their core things because they're really unhappy in that area, whether it be a relationship, their health, their business. That's a core thing that and a core tenet that we are going to focus on a daily basis. In fact, when we wake up out of bed, we may start to really talk about our intention for the day, making sure that we are intentional about taking care of this said relationship. But it's interesting how we get in these patterns of continuous negative cycle because I'm not happy and I'm not there and I'm not happy. And you see this and it's like, wait a minute. Are you clear on your intention of what you're trying to do? Well, I'm doing this so I get happy. Okay, cool. Did you tell yourself I'm intentionally doing this to do X? Well, no. Well, how does your body, how does your mind, how can it follow suit if you haven't been very clear? It's like starting a meeting without saying the purpose and intent of this meeting is X. Mm-hmm. Well, we could be talking about something and you have no idea why we're talking about it. You have to be clear. Our minds and our bodies are listening as well. So really stating that intent sets the whole thing up. And now you start to shift your behavior and pattern. Oh, it's not that I have to change everything. I just have to upgrade a couple things that I'm doing. If it's a health thing, maybe instead of the fried food, I'm having a salad for that day. It's a small upgrade, but it's an upgrade.
You know, I want to take this to our listeners and go just a step deeper. I think that one of the things that you and I see is when people are chasing this illusion of their former selves. And aging is not for the faint of heart. I mean, physically, oftentimes mentally, there are just things that are perpetually lost that you'll never regain. So if we are following your advice, right, and we say, okay, what is at the core of what I really want? Then what is shifting in my head? What's that new thing that's coming through? Would you mind sharing a little bit more about that? Because I think if we help our audience to see that while one thing may not be there anymore, but there's another thing that emerges, but what is that thing that's coming up?
Well, that's what's amazing with age is wisdom comes with it, right? You've experienced the world differently than you did. You're the same soul, right? Like you were the same 5-year-old that you're at 45, but the outward body has shifted a lot. What else has shifted? Your experience. So you have so much to offer if you look at it that way. And it is interesting as I meet people that are like, oh, I'm turning 50. And I'm like, congratulations. That's amazing.
What don't have the privilege.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's amazing because how much you have of experience, at least 6 years on me, that you've seen 6 more years of this world that I've never seen. I think that's fascinating. And so it's really just changing the perception of I'm losing something. Are you? Or are you actually gaining something else along the way? And what else is so interesting about it is it really is a mindset because they've shown now with neuroplasticity, our brains continue to grow and shift and change until the day we die, as long as we continue to use it. But so often you see people, once they retire, now I'm not going to use my brain. I'm just going to stop. And I'm like, please don't do that because you see what happens is once their brain function starts to go down, now they start to wither. So it's really fascinating if we just shift our perception for a moment and say, what am I gaining? How can I continue to grow today? Whether it's physically or mentally or spiritually, how am I growing and getting better? Because yesterday was an experience that I can take into today, and today is an experience I can take into tomorrow. And as that compounds, you have so much to offer the world. So That's how I've always looked at it. And that's how I coach my clients is, look, that experience is invaluable. It's amazing. Let's share it. Let's receive the gift that we have. And so it's just literally shifting your mindset on it.
Yeah, I mean, what you're alluding to is really a transformation piece, or at least that's what I'm hearing. And, as somebody who is over 50, I think what happens in this moment is that when you hit the 50, there's this moment of irrevocably having lost something that you can't get back, right? Because now there's a 5 in front of the number. And for us, I think mentally, it's like a midlife mark, even though it's really technically for most people, not the midlife mark. It's past the midlife mark, but that's kind of what we like to think. And then you look and you say, what happens at that point? Who makes it? Who is still relevant? And then there is a shift to say, what do you want to get out of this part in your life? And if you're chasing the first part of your life, then you are now in a perpetual chase. That'll kill you, basically, because that's not what this part of the journey is all about. And I'm sure you work with people like that. What do you think this part of the journey then becomes? So it's about the wisdom. It's about shortcuts. It's about simplification, fun. It's about the rewards of your labor. Can people actually do it? And if they can, what do they need to hear from you to be able to go like, I'm such an idiot. I'm getting it all wrong.
The saying I use with my clients is past is pain, future is anxiety, present is everything. Because here's the deal. I can't change the past. And if I'm constantly saying, oh, it was so amazing 10 years ago. Well, what am I saying about my present moment? I'm saying my present moment sucks. Or if I'm like, oh, it's going to be so amazing when I do X, Y, or Z in the future. Again, what you're saying is my present moment isn't that ideal. We are only guaranteed this moment right this second, like right now, I'm guaranteed. And then it continues. So being present in that moment, I know it's such a big thing now and you hear it all the time, stay present, but it's really profound, simple advice is you're only guaranteed this moment. So make it last, enjoy it, give everything you have right this second. And then the next thing, do the same thing. So when you're with your kids, be present in that moment. When you're having this conversation like I'm having with you right now, I am in it, man. This is all I have is just you and I. And then when I'm done, I'll go to the next thing and I'm going to give it everything I have. When you live that way, there's this fulfillment that is hard to explain because I'm not thinking about what I just had for lunch, or I'm not thinking about what I have to do tomorrow. I'm thinking about how can I give 100% to this very moment? It becomes this amazingly rewarding feeling because right now it's a gift and I just appreciate it so much. Or I could look and say, gosh, it was so good yesterday. Well, I'm effectively telling myself that it's not as good as it is right this second. So it's really just getting people to stop and say, enjoy this moment, be in the moment. Again, there's that word, be present, be.
I think this is a very simple thing, really. If I drill it down and I say, well, how hard can it be to be present at all times? But I think at the same time, it's the most difficult thing because people are always chasing some sort of other idea. I love the idea of reminding myself to say, well, where am I? And what am I doing right now? And am I really present with this? And am I shifting in this moment and being there? Because that's where the fulfillment is. I love this. This is I hope all the listeners are really hearing this part because you're missing out on so much when you are physically in one place, but you're emotionally or mentally in a different place and you have no outcome. And one final question before I ask you how we can find out more about you. What do you say to people that keep looping over the same injustice? And because that is so much brain power that goes into the looping.
It's so fascinating because right before I hopped on, I was talking about pattern interrupt because someone was like, well, this is just what I do. I'm comfortable doing X. And I said, okay, did you like the results of the last time you did X? Well, no, it was horrible. Well, do you like feeling horrible? Well, no. So should we maybe try something different than we did last time? Well, yeah. Okay. It's really not complicated if you think about it, But it's so funny how at some point we were taught, well, this is what I know, so I'm just going to.
This is who I am. This is what I do. Take it or leave it.
Yeah. And I ask people all the time, well, did you like the result? Well, no. So should we try something different? Yes. Okay, cool. I'm totally in. I can work with that. But if you just want to be the victim, if that's what you're setting up, like, I'm going to be the victim, high or hell water, I'm going to do it this way and I'm going to be miserable. Okay, cool. Thanks for coming. I can't help you. But if you're really willing to put yourself out there and say, you know what? I want more. I want to be happy. I want to do something different. Okay, now we can work with that. And so it does start with that mindset shift is like, do you want to feel good? Yes. Okay, cool. You didn't feel good last time. Let's try something new.
I think this is a phenomenal spot to stop the interview, because this is exactly a fantastic takeaway to say, if you're doing it and it doesn't feel good, what do you think is the logical, I can't even say it with a straight face, what do you think is a logical conclusion for you to move forward is make a change? So if somebody wants to make a change and have you on board, where will we send them? Where can they find out more about you, learn about you, and absorb more of your stuff or listen to your podcast?
Thank you so much. The podcast, because I want them to come hear you. You were brilliant. That's the Let's Go Win podcast. You can check me out at letsgowin.com and then Let's Go Win 365 on any social media channel. And thank you for having me. You're so amazing. I love your energy. I love what you're doing. And I so appreciate the chance to be here and share with your audience.
Well, it was definitely a highlight of my day having you on the show. I hope we get to do this soon again. And thank you so much for being here. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. This is your host, Beate Chalette, the Growth Architect, and goodbye. And that's it for us today. Thank you for listening and watching the Business Growth Architect Show. I enjoyed having you here. And for accountability, just take one of the strategies that you have heard, one thing that you can implement in your business immediately. Please leave comments. Don't forget to like and share this show. And if you have any questions about business, please put them in the comments. We are here for you. We're here to support you and help you to grow, build, and scale your own business. For more advice, please check out our website in the show notes below. Thank you again. This is Beate Chalette, the Growth Architect, and goodbye.